This is kind of a dirty trick that folks have kind of played on the public. Galvanized nails rust. They say they don't rust, but they do. Hello, my name is Kurt. I'm an estimator at Cascade Fence and Deck, and I'm going to be answering your fence questions today. What are the common types of fences? Wood, vinyl, aluminum, chain link, composite. The most common kind is wood. I would say people have the most questions, the most experience, the most demand for just a standard wood fence. Wood is very homey. That's why everyone likes it. It's what their grandpa had. So there is, kind of the inertia of the public. They do really like that. Vinyl is relatively new. Came around in the 70s or 80s. The more modern fences, the aluminum and vinyl fences look very modern, not quite as down home. It's very, George Jetson, Tony Stark, Bruce Wayne kind of place. People do chain link around their house here and there, but generally it would be for a car lot, a junkyard, an industrial park, that kind of thing. But the more modern fences, what you're buying is the longevity of the product. These will all last around 50 to 60 years or longer. Hey, we're selling the house. We're not going to live here forever. A lot of the value you put into that product is based on the longevity. So just have longevity in mind. What should I consider when choosing a fence? The biggest thing is to know the reason why you're putting a fence in, and get as specific as you can with the products around that. So, the most common one is, hey, I want to keep my kiddos out of the street and I want to keep my dogs out of the street. A vinyl fence, a chain link fence, a wood fence, an aluminum fence, those will all do that for you. A wood fence will do it in the most affordable way, though. If you're having a contractor out, he says, yeah, I can keep the kiddos out of the street with a vinyl fence, make sure that product will serve your needs. Just because something's awesome doesn't mean it'll serve you well. For instance, a chain link fence will last 85 years, but if you're going to sell the house in 5 years, then why would you invest in that? When is just standard 1950s picket fence will serve you well. Other things like privacy, this is the biggest one I get, is that we have a hot tub here, we have a barbecue here, and we have a hammock. We're trying to make a haven. My neighbor's kind of weird, and his yard's a little bit higher, and I want a fence here. But some people have ordered a 6-foot fence when they need a 6'9" fence. And then you spend the entire budget and you haven't gotten anywhere with it. The weird neighbor can still see your hot tub. You still can't enjoy the time out there. When I go out on site, that is one thing I really try to make sure that we get the privacy that people need. Weather's a huge factor. So especially here in, Oregon, Washington, the fences that are really fine for the rest of the United States are not fine here. So Home Depot, for instance, has a spruce-based panel fence. Spruce is a terrible wood for this region. It'll fall apart in a couple of years. That's why we use exclusively cedar with those long-term fasteners. Vinyl and aluminum fences are a good option for this area too. If you happen to be watching this in Arizona or, Texas, maybe not so much, but it'd be cedar, and then I would encourage vinyl as well. And then if you have myself or any of the other estimators out, tell us your problems. We'll really try to burrow in and make sure that problem goes away for you. What's the difference between a privacy fence and other fences, picket, semi-private, open? There's kind of a spectrum of privacy in just about every type of fence, to be honest. And wood fences are not 100% private. That's something we like folks to know, that if you have a very private area and you really want privacy, we have to double picket the fence. That would be referred to as a wood privacy fence because there's no gaps between the pickets at all. A standard fence that you just see around, there'll be very slight gaps in between the pickets. And, you always see the cartoon of Mickey Mouse putting his eyeball right to the knot hole, that kind of thing. And then after that, there's good neighbor fences, semi-private fences for gardens to let sun in. A fence with pickets on both sides. The neighbors like it. The white picket fence that keeps kiddos out of the street, chain link, that kind of thing. But not all wood fences are 100% private. It's good to know the level of privacy you want. When does repair make more sense than a replacement? The biggest thing is the pressing nature of the repair. So a lot of our repairs are, my dog's getting out. We can generally come out there a lot quicker with a repair crew and get your problem fixed and addressed a lot quicker than we can send out like a full install crew with a demo and removal. So urgency is a big one. And of course, budget. Repairs are going to be probably a fifth or a tenth of the cost just to keep your fence standing. We have that wonderful system with this a pile driver where we drive steel piles alongside the fence and secure to it just to keep your fence standing. What spacing should be between posts or rails? I'm probably going to lose the audience on this one. The rule of thumb, if you're building it yourself, you don't want a 2x4 rail to span more than 8 feet. If you go 10 feet between posts with your rails, that's going to sag over time. The pressure is going to cause it to split after a couple of years, especially if it, ever rains here in Washington or Oregon. And the fence will fail fairly often. You want a maximum span of 8 feet with a 2x4. As for the rails, the distance, you want to go about a foot from the top of the fence, keep your pickets from warping, and about a foot from the bottom. And I'm a sucker for a third rail right in the center. No one's ever said the fence is sitting too straight. My pickets just aren't warped enough. It's a minimal cost increase for that third rail, and the fence just sits there tall and strong and sturdy and straight for much more of its life. And people always like that. What materials, fasteners, hardware would you use? Stainless steel or galvanized? This is kind of a dirty trick that folks have kind of played on the public. Galvanized nails rust. They say they don't rust, but they do. So you'll see this on fences. They'll start to rust and you'll see these dark chemical streaks in the outside of the fence. That means your fence is going to eventually start popping apart. Because the things that hold it together are withering away. It cuts the lifetime of the fence. They're a cheap fastener. You want to use either stainless steel or a ring shank aluminum fastener. We've reused ring shank nails forever. As long as I remember, we've used those fasteners. So we're all in on that. And yeah, I think you guys should be too. Next question. How do materials behave over time? Wood shrinkage, warping, and rot. Wood will definitely fail and definitely rot compared to like chain link or vinyl. The biggest thing to avoid when it comes to wood failing is the posts. Pressure treated posts just don't last like they used to. The arsenic was banned. It was a nasty chemical, but it was banned out of those posts about 15 years ago. And once it was banned, the posts started failing in about 6 years or less instead of 20. So it cut the lifetime way down. We use steel posts. We're all in on steel posts. Chain link and vinyl are essentially invincible. Chain link will last somewhere around 60 or 70 years. And then vinyl will last, they say, a little bit before that. Vinyl was invented in the 70s, and all that product that's out there is basically still there with a little bit of warping. So it's outside like the human lifetime. So I always just tell people that chain link and vinyl are basically invincible. It's just going to be there until it's not. How deep do posts need to be buried? The rule of thumb is about 18 inches. The depth is not so important though, and this is a good thing to bring up with your contractor if you build it yourself. You want around 140 pounds of concrete per post for a 6-foot fence. So rule of thumb, 140 pounds would be almost 2 full bags of concrete. Of course, the taller you go, the bigger your sets have to be. So we go up around 200 pounds for a 7-foot fence. If you undersize your foundations, over time, that fence is going to droop over it. It's kind of like a boat that's taking on water. It just slowly lifts to the side. You'll see these around. We have a pile driver system as well that doesn't use any concrete. And it's a kind of a steel channel that gets driven down. We drive it a full 3 feet into the ground for a 6-foot fence. It's a very modern system, very effective. It's even better than concrete, and I would recommend that one, but people are really not going to stumble across that. It's a good thing to ask your contractor. If you happen to have a pile driver in your backyard, I would say good for you and use that. If you don't, give us a call. We can install a fence that way as well. Yeah, what is the expected lifespan of various fence types? So a wood fence, if it's built wrong, up here in Washington will last about maybe not more than a decade. If it's built right, about 20 to 25 years. Vinyl will last about 50 or 60 years or longer, actually. That's pretty much a lifetime fence. And then aluminum and chain link is essentially forever. That stuff just doesn't go bad. What maintenance is required per material? Staining, cleaning, repairs. Wood fences do require a lot of upkeep if you do want to keep it looking fresh. We recommend staining, every 2 to 3 years or so. A lot of people don't do that. which is fine because you still have the utility of the fence. But if you have a beautiful landscaped area and you want to keep that kind of same look or that same vibe, we say to stain it every 2 or 3 years. The other kinds of fences, the more modern ones, kind of goes without saying, they don't really need maintenance at all. Vinyl will be there forever. A lot of times people are like, oh, I don't like vinyl. It's got that white vinyl looks dirty. It's because a lot of people will put the vinyl in and then not touch it for 30 years. And it just gets covered with dust. Every vinyl fence you see that looks dirty out there is 3 hours away with a pressure washer or a car brush from looking like the day we put it in. And so people think, oh, vinyl does fail. It does rot. It really doesn't. It just gets dirty if you don't clean it. So vinyl needs cleaned every 3-4 years. Very briefly. Chain link, you just ignore it, never think about it again. It's kind of something I always tell folks that if you feel weird being there, it's not yours. And so you do want to build a fence that's really going to make your property yours. It's going to keep the kiddos out of the street. It's going to make sure your weird neighbor can't see your hot tub, that kind of thing. So it is a good idea to get it right. Everyone thinks it's kind of pedestrian, and I guess it is in a sense, but you really do want to build it right. Let us know if you got any more questions. We can definitely answer them for you.